In our previous video about the European countries with the highest presence of organized crime, we mentioned that once that video reached 400 likes, we would make one about the countries with the lowest presence of mafia. We reached those 400 likes in just a few hours. And so, we have prepared for you the ranking of the 10 European countries with the lowest presence of organized crime. And we assure you that some of them will surprise you. Of course, the mafia also has activities in these countries, but these nations have shown a great capacity to combat organized criminal activities. This video also includes transcontinental countries and those that are part of the Council of Europe, while in the final bonus we will also take a look at the microstates. Welcome to this new video from Amazing Europe. Number 10, Austria. Let's start with the negative aspects. Sex trafficking is also present in this country, mainly run by Eastern European and Nigerian mafias. Austria is primarily a transit country for cocaine, often imported through Vienna International Airport. Traffickers use body packs or hidden compartments in luggage to transport the drugs. But which criminal groups operate in Austria? Balkan criminal groups are involved in human and arms trafficking. West African and Asian mafias are involved in trafficking for sexual exploitation, drug trafficking and counterfeit goods. The Chechen mafia is involved in arms trafficking. Italian mafias are involved in various criminal activities such as drug trafficking, illegal gambling and money laundering through legal activities. The Global Organized Crime Index states that, despite past scandals involving some of its leaders, Austria is known for its strong political stability and governance. However, there are some regulatory gaps, particularly in the areas of anti-corruption and anti-trafficking measures. In Austria, the judiciary operates professionally and without political influence, and this is very helpful in the fight against organized crime. Another thing that helps a lot is that, although the country is part of the Schengen Agreement, it still maintains some border controls. Those with Hungary and Slovenia help them to control irregular migration flows. Number 9, Denmark. In Denmark, organized crime heavily relies on cybercrime. Ransomware attacks are a major concern, with criminals encrypting victims' data and demanding a ransom to decrypt it. There's also a rise in double extortion schemes, where stolen data is not only encrypted but also sold to the highest bidder. Domestic and foreign hacker groups, particularly Russian ones, have primarily targeted the hospitality and retail sectors. Drug trafficking is also a cause for concern. The demand for cocaine comes mainly from the young population, where it is popular as a party drug. Synthetic drugs enter the country primarily from the Netherlands and Eastern Europe. The Danish government places a strong emphasis on cooperation with law enforcement and politicians in neighboring countries to effectively combat organized crime. In this regard, it has introduced measures such as gang packages aimed at restricting the activities of convicted gang members and facilitating their reintegration into society. The Global Organized Crime Index highlights that a strength in Denmark's fight against organized crime is the strong unity between the majority and opposition parties against these criminal entities. Number 8, Latvia. Latvia's recent economic progress has made it an attractive destination for human traffickers, particularly in cases of labor exploitation. Some Ukrainians affected by the war are also becoming victims of trafficking in Latvia. The lack of risk prevention measures and unregistered refugee centers contribute to the vulnerability of these victims. Counterfeit product sales cause millions of euros in losses each year in Latvia. In recent years, there has been a growing trend of online purchases of counterfeit goods, including medicines, cosmetics, perfumes, and toys. However, the level of organized crime in Latvia is significantly lower than in other European countries. Additionally, despite low public trust in the government and parliament, the Global Organized Crime Index notes that efforts have been made at the ministerial and political level to combat organized crime. The judicial system in Latvia has shown gradual improvement, although there is still room for progress in corruption cases. Number 7, Lithuania. Lithuanians also have low trust in the government and perceive corruption to be present in their country. However, Lithuania has greatly improved its cooperation with police forces in other countries, both in Europe and around the world. It has created new alliances and agreements to work better together and exchange information, in order to more effectively combat organized crime. Thanks to these actions, there have been fewer cases of people crossing borders illegally and more joint operations to stop drug and arms trafficking, cigarette smuggling, human trafficking, and other crimes that extend beyond the borders of a single country. Lithuanian authorities are also trying to crack down on crimes that are facilitated by the dark web and social media. To combat these crimes, Lithuania has implemented strict rules and harsh penalties. Of course, there is still work to be done. For example, Lithuanian citizens are mostly victims of trafficking to other European countries for purposes such as prostitution, sham marriages, and forced labor. The UK, Spain, and Germany are important destination markets for Lithuanian trafficking victims, with a growing number of men being trafficked for forced labor. Number 6. Norway. Norway is a destination country for human trafficking. The majority of victims are adult women trafficked for sexual exploitation, primarily from Albania, Bulgaria, Romania, and Ukraine. However, the numbers are relatively small, especially compared to the rest of Europe. The arms smuggling market is small but present. In recent years, there has been an increase in armed violence among young gang members, who acquire weapons primarily through the dark web. There is no indication of organized crime involvement in environmentally harmful crimes. Heroin is responsible for the majority of overdose deaths in Norway. Cannabis is, however, the most commonly used and seized drug in Norway, and organized crime groups are involved in its production and distribution. Norway is considered one of the world's strongest democracies and has a strong public stance against organized crime. The level of corruption in Norway is perceived to be quite low, and the government has strong mechanisms in place to identify and punish corrupt officials. Norway also supports various initiatives at the global level, particularly in the area of justice against human trafficking, corruption, terrorism, and piracy. Number 5. Georgia. Georgia is not geographically a European country, but it is part of the Council of Europe and is a candidate to join the European Union. Georgia is a country of origin and transit for human trafficking, particularly for sexual exploitation and forced labor. For example, women from former Soviet republics are trafficked through Georgia on their way to Turkey. As for extortion and racketeering, there has unfortunately been a significant increase, which appears to be correlated with the growing activities of the so-called thieves-in-law. If things continue this way, Georgia could lose its 5th place in this ranking in the coming years. The Global Organized Crime Index states that the resilience level of this country is not as high as that of the other countries seen so far. By resilience is meant a country's ability to resist and combat organized crime through political, economic, legal, and social measures. What allows Georgia to be on this list is therefore not Georgian governance, but the fact that organized crime has no hold on the mentality of the people. This means that the activities of organized crime are still very limited in this country. Number 4. Iceland. Human trafficking is also present in Iceland, albeit to a limited extent. Foreign criminal groups from Southeast Europe and Middle Eastern countries are suspected of facilitating trafficking on the island. As for environmental crimes, there is no evidence to suggest the existence of organized environmental crimes by organized crime groups. A more worrying problem, however, is cybercrime. Criminal groups in Iceland are increasingly using cryptocurrency for money laundering, and they are advantaged by the fact that a significant amount of Bitcoin mining is done in this nation. The Icelandic government has prioritized the fight against organized crime. Many efforts have been made to improve the effectiveness of law enforcement. The Reykjavik Metropolitan Police and the Suðurnes District Police play a leading role in the fight against organized crime, particularly in cases related to drug trafficking. It is also worth noting that Iceland's geography helps it, due to its remote location in the North Atlantic Ocean. But the Global Organized Crime Index states that its membership in the Schengen area makes it an attractive entry point for criminals seeking to access Europe or North America. Number 3. Finland. This country's resilience index is the highest in Europe, a sign that Finland is the country where organized crime is fought the most. There is no evidence to suggest a widespread presence of mafia-style groups in Finland, although some groups do exist. Organized crime in Finland has unique characteristics. Some smaller criminal organizations use legal businesses such as taxis, car washes, barbershops, and garages for criminal activities and money laundering. Recent police operations have shaken up the criminal landscape, including the dismantling of a major gang. In fact, the great efficiency of the Finnish police contributes greatly to Finland's presence on this list. Some international agreements also help in this regard. Finland is committed to extradition agreements with countries such as the United States, Canada, Australia, and Hong Kong, focusing primarily on serious crimes such as drug trafficking, human trafficking, and property crimes. Number 2, Luxembourg. Luxembourg's sore spot is obviously financial crime. The tax system of this small country is attractive not only to international companies and wealthy individuals but also to organized crime. While secret tax deals with multinationals have decreased considerably, other dubious business practices have emerged. The cocaine market is growing, with the development of more organized crime networks throughout the country. The drug is mainly imported from Latin America and transported through Western Europe. West African criminal groups have also developed routes to and through Luxembourg. The police in this country have a department focused on organized crime and anti-terrorism. Luxembourg has 8 drug units and has one of the highest numbers of agents per capita in Europe. Before we reveal number 1 and the final bonus, if you found this video informative, we kindly ask you to like it, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications by clicking on the bell. It costs you nothing, but it would help us a lot to spread our project. Thank you very much. Number 1, Armenia. Like Georgia, Armenia is not geographically a European country, but it is from a socio-cultural point of view, so much so that it is a member of the Council of Europe. Like Georgia, the resilience level is not particularly high, a sign that the government could do better in terms of fighting organized crime. But the presence of this type of crime is not only very low in this country, but it is also decreasing. Since 2020, the number of victims of sexual trafficking has been declining. Armenians can easily enter neighboring countries such as Russia, Turkey, and Iran. This is because visas are not required or easy to obtain. For this reason, the number of Armenians who use criminal networks to enter neighboring countries illegally is negligible and human trafficking is therefore limited. The arms smuggling market in Armenia is also limited, and is limited to weapons mainly from the Nagorno-Karabakh region. Corruption has been recorded within state bodies, however, the influence of criminals on politics has been reduced in recent years following government efforts to combat corruption. These are the 10 European countries with the lowest presence of organized crime. But if we also consider microstates, the situation changes. In fact, in second and first place we find respectively the Principality of Monaco and Liechtenstein. Some of you might be surprised to see Liechtenstein at the top, given its reputation as a tax haven. However, precisely for this reason, the Global Organized Crime Index states that the government has taken a strong stance against organized crime, precisely to prevent it from taking advantage of tax laws in this microstate. We are now really curious to hear your opinions and experiences. In fact, we would like to remind you that reporting the Global Organized Crime Index study does not mean that we agree with it, but we did it precisely because we want to know your point of view. If you found this video interesting, we recommend the one on the European countries with the highest presence of organized crime. You can find it in the top right corner. Well, that's all for this video. See you next time.